What if the Civil War did more than preserve the Union? What if it also became the moment an older political program finally broke through? Because long before Abraham Lincoln entered the White House, he supported protective tariffs, a national bank, federally directed development, and centralized economic power. And once war began, many of the forces that had blocked that agenda disappeared. This chapter of The Real Lincoln asks a deeper question. Did the war merely test Lincoln, or did it enable him? For decades, American politics was divided, not only over slavery, but over the shape of the republic itself. Should power remain decentralized among the states, or should Washington guide national development? Lincoln came from the old Whig tradition, the tradition of Henry Clay and the American system. A politics of tariffs, banking, subsidies, and internal improvements. Those battles had existed long before Fort Sumter. When Southern states succeeded, something enormous changed. Many of the strongest opponents of high tariffs, centralized finance, and federal economic planning were no longer in Congress. And in moments of national emergency, major legislation can move fast. Measures once stalled in normal politics suddenly become possible. This is one of history's recurring patterns. Crisis compresses resistance. One of the first major examples was the tariff question. For years, high protective tariffs had been fiercely contested in American politics. Many Southern leaders opposed them, arguing that tariffs raised the cost of imported goods, hurt agricultural exports, and transferred wealth towards Northern industry. But once Southern states left Congress, that resistance largely vanished, and long-desired protectionist measures advanced rapidly. Tariffs were not merely taxes. They shaped winners and losers. They favored manufacturers, burdened consumers and importers, and strengthened federal revenue at the same time. To supporters, national development, industrial growth, economic independence. To critics, privilege through law, sectional favoritism, government picking winners. Either way, war changed what could be passed. Then came finance. War is expensive. Armies must be fed, weapons purchased, railroads funded, soldiers paid, and that means governments in war search for money fast. During the Lincoln era, the federal government moved toward a far stronger national financial system. New national chartered banks expanded. A more uniform national currency emerged. Paper money, greenbacks, were issued directly by the federal government, and public debt grew dramatically through wartime borrowing. These were not small technical changes. They reshaped the relationship between Washington, banks, and the economy itself. Because once a government builds the machinery to finance war, that machinery rarely disappears when peace returns. Debt systems remain, banking networks remain, tax systems remain, centralized monetary power remains. Temporary emergencies often create permanent institutions. The chapter also points to railroad expansion and federal support for politically connected development interests. Railroads were transformative. They could open markets, move troops quickly, connect regions, accelerate commerce, shrink distance itself. In many ways, they helped build modern America. But they also revived an older political question. When government directs economic development, who truly benefits? During this era, railroad companies often sought federal land grants, subsidies, loan guarantees, privileged contracts, and favorable legislation. Supporters argued this was necessary. Great nations required great infrastructure. Private capital alone might not build it fast enough. Critics saw something else: profits privatized, risk socialized, political influence rewarded, and once business success depends on government favor, lobbying can become more important than competition. So the debate was never simply railroads. It was whether development should emerge through markets or be steered through political power. These are not 19th century questions only, they are modern questions too. Whenever public money flows toward favored firms, the same debate returns. War does something else. It normalizes central command. Decisions once local become national. Revenue rises. Bureaucracies expand. Emergency powers widen expectations of executive authority. Even after the cannons fall silent, the habits of central governance often remain. That may be one of the chapter's deepest themes. Now, to be fair, not every wartime policy means secret design. Many leaders improvise under pressure. Many believe sincerely they are saving the country. So the real issue is not conspiracy, it is alignment. When crisis appears, long-held agendas often find their opening, and people already committed to centralization tend to centralize. This goes far beyond Lincoln. Across countries and centuries, wars have expanded taxation, wars have expanded debt, wars have expanded executive power, and wars have expanded bureaucracy. Then later generations inherit the institutions and forget the emergency that created them. What struck me most reading this chapter is how often history focuses only on battlefield drama. But behind wars, systems are being built, budgets redesigned, powers consolidated, economic structures transformed. Sometimes the greatest legacy of war is not who won the battle, but what government became afterward. So was Lincoln's real agenda simply slavery? Or was it also the older Whig dream of tariffs, banks, and national direction, finally realized under the pressures of war? That is the challenge this chapter presents, and whether one agrees or disagrees, it forces a harder kind of historical thinking. Not just about motives, but about institutions. In the next episode, we move into one of the sharpest controversies of all. Was Lincoln a dictator? I'll see you in the next episode.